Okay, dokie. Are we all good to go?
All good.
Excellent. Oh,
Let's
one
go.
sec.
All right.
Let's go.
Around this time last year, the Ren Fair had a romance-themed weekend, and Abby and I went as love nuns to match the theme, and we had such an absolute blast that we had to come back again this year, but with a much bigger group and a whole new outfit. The theme for this year's weekend is Feast of Fools, and so we thought something food related would be in the spirit. We thought briefly about being saucy nuns and dressed as various different condiments, but then someone in the room said the words Order of the Hidden Valley, and that's it. We were done. We're gonna be ranch nuns. We came up with a design that we were happy with, and then we spent the next few months trying to keep our eyes on the lookout for fabric that would work well with the design, until I luckily spotted this 30 yards of vaguely cream or, ranch colored wool and some nice blue and green to match the label on the bottle to go with it. Now we do have a group of potentially 10 people coming, which means each person's only gonna get 3 yards of fabric to make their dress, which is not a lot of fabric with which to make a full-length medieval style gown with long sleeves. We'll make it work, but there's not a lot of room for error. Since this is a big group with people who do not live geographically close to each other, for planning purposes, I put together a project board so that everybody could be kept on the same page. Everybody knew who was making what and had several informed options on how they could proceed with their particular design. Like, everybody's responsible for making their own outfit happen, broadly speaking, but how you do your patterning and your seams and your hem finishes and all that is very much, choose your own adventure. Before I actually do anything though, I think I should verify that this is in fact 30 yards, because that is going to dramatically impact things if it's not. We are all good there, so next I measured out those 3 yard lengths and then did a little snip and then ripped each one apart. This fabric rips so beautifully, which is so nice when you're needing to divide a bunch of pieces up like this and it's straight on the grain. So great. Once I had them all separated, I did go ahead and fold them up nice and tidy and neat and pop them into a shipping box. I have cut out all of the different bits and bobs so that I can send them off to their respective people, and they are packaged up to be away. Now, the astute amongst you may have noticed that this is not 10 different packages. I am of course making my own, but I also have a few folks coming over to visit me to do some patterning in person. Noelle is going with a fairly straightforward rectangular construction style of medieval gown, which means that we're going to need a couple big long rectangles for the torso and then several triangles to create the fullness of the skirt. The sleeves are going to be slightly shaped with a little bit of an S-shaped sleeve head and a slight taper to the wrist, but in general staying fairly loose. Noelle already sent me her measurements, but it never hurts to double check, so we're going to do a quick kind of visual demonstration of the various measurements that I needed to get the kind of basic cutting situation started. So first up, a hug to get our bust. And then next we're going to grab from shoulder to floor as well as from waist to floor. With our various measurements, the first thing we're going to do is cut that shoulder to floor piece, which is going to be our biggest piece out of the fabric. And then once we have the proper length needed, we're going to take that bust measurement, divide it in half with the tape, and that's going to be the width that we need to cover the body. And then next up, we're going to work on the pieces that are going to get inset into the skirt to give it lots of flair. So we're going to take that waist to floor measurement and cut our next section. And then I think we'll start cutting out our various triangles to make all those lovely hip gores. Next up with our pieces is going to be adding in a shoulder seam, which I've just kind of pinned in place here. And then for the neckline, which always remember that your neck is more forward on your body, it's not directly in the middle. So we're going to cut a neckline here. For now, I'm just going to kind of nip into place a temporary little bit of opening, just enough to make sure that we can get Noelle's head through, but then we'll actually define what we want on her body. Noelle has a lovely shift situation that is going to work really, really well with this. So we're gonna, because we've already got a matching garment, we're going to make sure to cut the neckline with that in mind. I can just feel underneath where that shift is. So I'll just add some pins to match that neckline. I think the shoulder's sitting about right. We stitched a bunch of our various triangle bits in, although not all of them. And we did basting stitches with all of this, knowing that there was a very good chance that there need to be adjustments. And now that it's on her, I can really see that the small of her back is here. So we've got at least another 3 inches up that we're gonna wanna go with this back gusset triangle bit. We're gonna move each of the side ones up about 1/2 inch to 1 inch so that that spot where like the smallest part of the body is starting to drift out is where we want those triangles to start. And then we'll work on the top half. We've done nothing here yet. This is just getting the bottom half in place. We restitched the skirt godets and then gave the hem a really rough, quick trim and then popped on some simple sleeves just to make a nice, quick, mostly finished dress. She kind of had to skedaddle back on home to California at this point, so she took the dress with her and then did all of her finishing stitches at home. We were in a little bit of a rush at the end there, so unfortunately we didn't really get any sleeve footage. But Nami came a couple weeks later and we totally did get her sleeves. And now for our next round of patterning, we have a Nami joining me. We are going to do a different pattern than we did with Noelle since hers was smooth fronted, so it was just one panel in the front and back. With Nami, we're going to do the 4-panel drafting system, which means that each panel has multiple spots to fit to the body, whereas with the 2, you can only really fit in the side, right? Mm-hmm. So we're gonna get super, super fitted, as you say.
We're gonna go full sausage. That's the plan. The plan is to just be as fitted as actually the top of this dress.
While we are doing a different patterning method, I do still need her measurements in order to make sure that the mock-up fabric here is both long enough and then wide enough to fit her torso. I will toss some really quick basting stitches into the side seams here, but leaving room for her arms to come out the top, and then some more stitches in the shoulders. This will start out as a very fetching pillowcase, but as I go along, I will start pinching out fabric from each of the seams and it'll get more and more fitted. We have a extremely rough level of fitting started so far, just so that it's not loose, but we can start cutting away some of this excess that we are 100% not needing anymore, just so that I can then properly access to fit areas that I need to. And also, like, this neck does not look very comfortable, so we're just gonna, don't cut the hair. Ta-da! Ta-da! Next up is a second round of pinning and pinching, which according to Nami makes me
a professional crab.
A professional crab. Then I marked all of these seams that are temporarily pinned in place with some Sharpie, and I draw any changes that I want to make from here, like where the shoulder seam is just a little bit too far forward, so I marked a line further back, and that's where the new shoulder seam is going to be. The sleeves start out just as a rectangle the length of her arm, but with the seam rotated towards the back so that it's at the back of the arm, like you'll see with a lot of medieval clothing illustrations. And then I'll pin the top in to keep it from rotating. After a bit more pinning, you can see that the rectangular sleeve is becoming more and more shapely, and we can remove the excess fabric after the pins. That is the same method that I used with Noelle's sleeve, just Noelle's wasn't quite as pinchy fitted. We stitched all of the seams so that they weren't just pinned in place anymore, and then folded the neckline in so that we could give it another try on and see how things were fitting. We have the final fitting situation. So this is the same fabric, but this is the second mock-up. So we completely cut up all the old original mock-up and put it down on paper, and we made some changes, like little tucks here and there. The biggest change though was the bust, because on the older one we had a lot of room for the bust at the side, and realized that we could maybe get a bit more forward projection if we moved that bust room. So this is actually the pattern. I'm gonna pull it up closer so you can see. Come on, there we go. So you can see that there's lots of slivers here where we had cut off the bump on the side here. and added it to the front, so there's kind of more of a boob shelf situation.
It was corralled, herded.
We did some herding into the front. And so now, next up is she's gonna take this home and some fabric home and use the pattern to make up her dress, and we'll see in a few months here what the end resulting dress is.
It'll be shenanigans for sure.
It'll be beautiful. As it turns out, it was shenanigans.
I'm not saying I waited until the morning just before we left to actually cut out my lining and put together all the pieces that Morgan helped me lovingly pattern and cut out, but that's definitely what I'm doing, so don't worry about it. It's fine, it's fine, it's fine.
While I was helping out Nami and Noelle, everybody else was making progress on their own pieces. Some folks made mock-ups, like I did with Nami, where they were using a little bit of trial and error and pinching to settle into their pattern. Some used book patterns to draft out their garments. Medieval Tailor's Assistant is a great choice for this project. Some folks already had kirtle patterns or existing body blocks to start out with, but no matter what method folks used, everybody had a lot of triangles to cut out.
It's fine if I fuck it up, right? I mean, it's just rectangles and triangles, so.
All right, big girl pants are on.
Let's do this, dude. And
Now for my own dress, I used a pattern that I had made a few years back, but I added some modifications to it because I wanted this to be a slightly more loose fit rather than a super tight one. I did the same thing for my sleeves, just traced out the old pattern and then made it a little bit bigger, a little bit more rectangular. Now, because I changed my old pattern, I still did do a mock-up because I wanted to see how all of those changes culminated and panned out. And it was indeed a little bit looser, but I'm going to do a bit of adjustment to lower the arm side right here. But once that's done, I took out my new adjusted pattern and started working on the actual dress. And yes, all the corresponding triangle pieces to go with that. Now, because I was kind of running out of time at this point, I did just finish my seams with ironing for the time being, and that way I could get to work on all of the veil and scapular pieces. After agonizing over the perfect cut layout for the blue and the green fabric, I finally picked one and cut all the pieces down to the right size, enough to make 9 of the tabards. We didn't need 10 anymore because one of the folks dropped out, and I only needed to make 8 of the veils because one person's wearing a hood, as per my last video. Originally, I had 2 potential veil plans. One that was just a plain green, and the other was green with a blue band at the bottom to try and match the lid on a bottle of ranch. I wasn't sure if I was going to be up to the extra work in making that happen, but apparently yes. I did indeed decide it was worth it, so I cut out all of the strips, ironed them flat, pinned them to the green, and now to sew it, I am going to take a slightly odd approach. I folded the blue inward and then used a blind hem stitch to sew them together. This does 4 stitches in the green and then a tiny one in the blue, and then once I take the pins out, it's really difficult to see the blue stitch. It's a little wrinkled from the folding, but that's nothing that a very quick iron won't fix. For the scapular, I cut a little Hidden Valley shape for the front to try and match the bottle, and then top stitched that down by machine. Same with the shoulder straps and all that. And I added a little bit of fluffy gold yarn to highlight the tops of the hills, give it a little bit of additional definition. And I am pretty happy with how that turned out. Like, it would have been lovely to hand applique all the edges and that, but when it came to making a bunch of scapular and veils and things, I kind of had to pick my battles. So this worked just fine. And we did end up, though, hand stitching the edges of the veils. I did kind of the last bit of cleaning up here and then got on the road and met up with folks, and on the car ride to the Ren Fair, we finished off the rest of the veils. With everything now done, the final look consists of a linen shift first, then the wool gown layer in whatever style and closure folks chose. Then our hair gets put up into a tidy braided style because you're going to need a sturdy base for the cap and the wimple to then pin to. Then the scapular / tabard and the matching veil on top. Once we were all together and at the Ren Fair and dressed, we had a few little last minute additions to the outfits, like these medallions that were made by Emily, these ranch bottle Christmas tree ornaments that we randomly happened to spot at Cracker Barrel the night before.
Best part about these, there were 3 on the shelf. Abby spotted them, Morgan and I had them, and Morgan ran back, asked if there were more, and there were just exactly 9. It was meant to be.
It was meant to be.
We even had little matching veggie socks.
These are from
Good store.
Bow, 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 bow. And they got carrots. Carrots and radishes.
and other vegetables.
It was so great to finally see everybody together after months of planning and sewing, and how cute and matchy-matchy we were. It was also really neat to see all the sorts of accessories that different folks brought, like Chrissy's carrot rosary and these crochet veggie bags. We were concerned that it might be too hot, and it was warm, but surprisingly not bad for head to toe wool outfits.
Holla! We are enjoying the shade because it's toasty. Look at all these faces hanging out with me.
The outfits worked pretty well in general, aside from needing to occasionally fix veils throughout the day.
I hate what's going on with this side of the veil. It's driving me nuts.
From here on out, we just enjoyed being at the fair and having fun. We gave out ranch packets to a ton of folks. We enjoyed the music and shows. We said hello to so many people.
Hello! Hello! Hello!
We did our very best impression of medieval manuscript figures trying to be letters. I personally really enjoyed spying all of the fun little construction details that folks did with their outfits. Like, some folks had buttons, different ways people did their cuffs.
Who finished their sleeve cuffs?
The seam isn't even, and there's chocolate on it now.
Oh, beautiful. I love your chocolate.
Thank you, it's delicious.
Everybody's hems.
I mean, I think more people finished hems than cuffs.
And what sort of pocket situation folks did. I personally just left a little bit of seam open on spots so that I could pop my hand in and use one of my more 16th century style pockets underneath. But I knew I wanted to be able to have my hands at least mostly free.
It's been a long day. And I'm tired.
After a lovely and long day at the fair, we were very much ready to get comfortable and get off our feet.
Enjoying it, but I'm too tired.
I had such a great time. I think there's something uniquely satisfying about executing a big group project and having it go well, which I think it went great. You should definitely check out in the description a list of everybody who participated in the shenanigans, and some of them have posted pictures and video from the Ren Fair that will be fun to look at. Speaking of which, this video, not sponsored at all, but Hidden Valley did notice some of our videos that had been posted on Instagram and TikTok, and sent us as a group a 48-pound box of ranch to show their appreciation, which delighted and amused us. And I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I know that we really, really enjoyed making it, and I look forward to seeing what we do next year.